Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome home, everybody. Today, I am going to be giving you my top 5 favorite movies I rewatched in the year 2025. So, if you love talking about movies but have nobody that'll sit down and listen to you talk about movies, well, buddy, you have found the right place. So, consider joining here at ZakIsCinema. But yes, we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. So, hopefully, you guys had some time to check out my top 10 favorite movies from 2025. And my top 10 most disappointing movies from 2025. So we are going to be continuing on that trend of ranking and creating lists from the previous year, which was 2025. So I thought it'd be fun today to give you my top 5 favorite rewatched movies I watched in 2025. So going through my Letterboxd account here, in the year 2025, I rewatched 26 total films that I have seen previous and in previous years. So this list isn't going to be from worst to best or any particular order, just 5 films that I thoroughly enjoyed rewatching and probably wish I rewatched them sooner. So without further ado, let's jump into my top 5 favorite rewatches from last year. So starting with number 5, we got the movie Good Time. Now, I believe I rewatched this film before seeing Mickey 17 and covered it on the channel just because it was one of my favorite Robert Pattinson movies, and it had been a while since I sat down and rewatched this movie, but I am so happy I took the time to rewatch it. And just with Marty Supreme coming out just a couple weeks ago, I found myself reminiscing about this movie again because I think it is one of the Safdie brothers' best movies they have ever made. Right up there, obviously, with Uncut Gems and Marty Supreme. All 3 of these movies kind of give you a very similar experience, but do things very differently within its story. And I think specifically with the movie Good Time, I feel like the simple premise is used super well in this movie because it just gives it relentless momentum throughout its runtime. I feel like Good Time is proof that some of the best thrillers rely on simplicity, and with this movie, it takes one bad decision and it just keeps causing spiraling chaos all throughout the story surrounding our characters. And I love how in this movie, the Safdie brothers really waste no time jumping into the story or setting the stakes. It starts off with a simple enough bank robbery, and then right from that moment, the movie never lets up with its tension, creating a structure for our characters to constantly feel like they have to try and fix something, like with Robert Pattinson's character, but everything that he does to try and fix the situation that he's in makes the situation and the story so much worse for him. So it's just that constant twisting, creating that unrelenting tension that I thoroughly enjoy in this movie. And I love how this movie focuses on that tension, that crime side to the story, but they also take some time to develop some of the characters. They're not the world's greatest characters or anything, but there's simple, quick scenes that really give you something to kind of latch onto. For example, with that group therapy session with the character of Nick, I feel like it shows you his vulnerabilities. It shows you how this world in particular treats Nick and how Connie kind of sees his role as Nick's protector in his life. And they do all this without any just exposition, which I definitely enjoy in any movie. And again, with Connie's character, with Robert Pattinson, they do a lot for his character just within this group therapy scene, with him barging in, immediately removing Connie, and kind of shows his love for his brother, but also his fatal flaw of assuming he always knows what's best for Nick in every situation, even though what he's putting his brother in is probably not the best situation for him to be in. And I feel like the chaos, tension, and anxiety in this movie is my favorite part from the story. There's so many scenes of just overlapping, frantic dialogue, frantic pacing, and constant noise that not only creates just chaos, but shows Connie's lack of control of the situation and his lack of control with protecting his brother Nick. There's always something happening, but it never feels like so exhausting where it just is too tiring to ever rewatch. It's one of those perfect balances similar to Uncut Gems and Marty Supreme, where I find myself wanting to go back and revisit this one. I think Robert Pattinson does an amazing job as Connie, and this was kind of one of his first roles exiting that Twilight Saga rut that he was in, and one of those roles that really proved to everybody that he is a very capable actor. And I feel like he does this performance so well because he genuinely shows his love for his brother, but every choice that he makes is just selfish, reckless, and destructive, which makes the performance so compelling in my opinion because he's not malicious. He has those right intentions, but because he's so desperate, delusional, and convinced that he's going to solve everything, that's his character's fatal flaw, and I feel like he conveys that super, super well. And one of my favorite parts of the movie is the movie's ending. I feel like the final act pushes Connie's desperation all the way up to his breaking point and leaves off on a bittersweet but also kind of devastating note that works really, really well. I like how Connie finally stops running and accepts responsibility and almost removes himself from Nick's life by literally going to prison and getting caught with this situation, realizing too late that loving someone doesn't mean controlling them, and that's why he kind of makes that sacrifice. It's bittersweet but also beautiful at the same time. It's bittersweet because now Nick is without his brother Connie. Even though that's going to be better for Nick, you still kind of want to see them live happily ever after. And I love how its final moments really emphasize how complicated and unresolved this brother's relationship really is in the story. So I absolutely loved watching Good Time again. So happy that I got to for little review series that I did, but it's also just a great movie, so please check it out if you've never seen it. So coming in at number 5, we got the movie Good Time. Coming in at number 4 for my favorite rewatches, I'm kind of cheating here a little bit because I'm going to put the first Final Destination and also Final Destination 5. So obviously we had Final Destination Bloodlines come out earlier in the year, and if you're interested, I did a whole in-depth review series of the entire franchise, and it had been a little bit since I've seen any of these movies, but I just found myself really, really enjoying rewatching specifically the first one and that fifth one. And I specifically, when we get into the fifth one, I think that movie is super, super underrated. But first, with the original Final Destination, I love how it's a genuinely original twist on almost a slasher formula. Like, instead of a mass killer running, hunting down each of our characters here, the actual villain is just death itself in the movie. And I also like how it introduces this almost time loop scenario without fully committing to the time loop, if that makes sense. Like, they use Alex's premonition as a way to reset the event and turn the film into a suspenseful game of death, hunting down all these characters that shouldn't have survived their original premise. And my favorite part that this franchise went on to do, but started with this movie, is it taps into that universal fear of death. And it's something everybody can relate to. I like how in this movie they do it with the plane accident, but then also all the other ones of just using everyday kind of life events or occurrences and turning them into your literal worst nightmare. So I love that aspect in the franchise, but again, it all started with this first one. The plane crash is an absolutely amazing sequence that still holds up to today, and again, taps right into that universal fear of flying and showing you the worst case scenario. And just like any slasher horror movie, I feel like with this movie, they really focus on the death scenes that are creative, mean, but also fun and over the top, but still come off as very effective. I love Todd's bathroom scene, the infamous jump scare bus scene. The kills are memorable because I feel like they lead into that misdirection aspect in all these sequences, culminating to a character's demise. And I feel like Devon Sawa as Alex Alex does honestly a really good job in this movie, and I feel like his performance is kind of underappreciated. I feel like he sells the insanity of the situation, his panic, paranoia, and breakdown right after the vision feels so human and realistic, but I also like how it makes everyone super suspicious of him because he was just kicked off the plane for saying that it was going to explode, and then it inevitably explodes, so he looks suspicious. And I feel like this was the movie that really only took the police investigative side pretty serious. I mean, if someone had a premonition and predicted this massacre that just happened, obviously the FBI or the police would get involved. So I like that the characters are not only running from death, but running from law enforcement as well. But as we get into Final Destination 5, like I said, I think this is such an underappreciated and underrated Final Destination movie, especially coming after part 4, which was just felt like a made-for-TV cheap sequel. I feel like this is a more confident return and a fun return to the franchise. It commits to using some practical effects. There's some iffy CGI, but it commits to that fun, over-the-top tone and doesn't try to reinvent everything, but just goes for that solid premise that you expect from this franchise. If it wasn't for some iffy CGI parts in the bridge collapse, it would definitely be one of my favorites. I mean, even despite the CGI, it is still one of my favorite sequences, especially a great opening, as this bridge collapse, I feel like, is another perfect universal fear that is one of those super unexpected things, but everyone crosses a bridge almost every single day, so I think it was a perfect opening for that. And I like that they switched the characters' dynamics just a little bit in this one. Like, instead of making it a group of friends or school friends, they make the survivors a bunch of coworkers, and instead of close friends, this adds a little bit more friction, makes some uneasy alliances a little bit, makes their relationships just enough different that you feel like you're getting something kind of new with it. And I love how in this movie, Tony Todd finally gets more than just one scene. He's kind of this ongoing presence and introduces this cool lore tidbit that you can cheat death by killing someone else and taking the life that they had left. And I feel like this pushes our characters again into a different dynamic, has to contemplate death chasing after them, but then also wondering if they should go forward and just kill someone so they don't have to worry about that anymore. Again, introducing new lore, introducing new character dynamic that I thought fit really, really well for the franchise. And again, the ending is absolutely perfect. I love how they hide the twist in plain sight by making this a sequel, but a hidden prequel that perfectly makes the whole franchise go in this perfect circle leading right into the first one. And when I first saw that twist, it absolutely blew my mind to the point where I was super hesitant and kind of frustrated that they were making a Final Destination 6, even though it is still my favorite movie in the franchise. I think if we never got a Final Destination 6, I'd be okay because of how perfectly this franchise just looped right back into itself, sticking with that theme of the premonition and that time loop concept. So I love Final Destination, love Final Destination 5. Super happy I got to rewatch both of these. So coming in at number 4, we got the first Final Destination and the 5th one. But coming in at number 3, we got Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Now, if you can't tell from my beautiful poster back there, I absolutely adore Revenge of the Sith. This movie was like an infamous, crazy movie I remembered from my childhood. It was that first PG-13 Star Wars media of any kind right before Disney bought Star Wars. And I remember when this movie came out when I was in elementary school, because it came out in 2005 if I'm remembering correctly. I was still in elementary school, and again, first PG-13 Star Wars movie, so there's about half of the kids in my elementary school whose parents didn't care and let them watch the movie, and that's all they were talking about. And then myself and another group of kids that I went to school with, they had a little bit more strict parents who wouldn't let them watch the PG-13 Star Wars movie. And like I said, I was always in that camp that it took me a while to convince my parents to let me experience this masterpiece. And at that point when it came out, I had already seen all the other 5 movies that were in this franchise. So it almost felt like my parents were denying me access to this saga I grew up with without its proper prequel ending, denying me the right to see how this story wraps up. So there was so much anticipation in going to experience this movie when I could finally watch it. And when I was finally able to watch it, I believe, I'm pretty confident that this was my first PG-13 movie I had ever seen, and I was obsessed with Star Wars as a kid and growing up. And when I finally got to watch this movie, it truly did feel like a pivotal, groundbreaking, life-changing core memory for ZakIsCinema. And yes, even though the movie has so many flaws, I agree, the writing, characters, CGI, some of the acting, and that rushed ending that turns Anakin into a villain so fast, even though they had 2 other movies to kind of make that transition a little bit more natural, I still just can't help but love this movie. And yeah, of course, it's a lot with nostalgia, but when they put this in theaters for its anniversary, it was honestly one of the best theater experiences I have had in quite some time, and definitely one of my favorite from this past year, even to the point where I bought that display poster and absolutely love it. Because at the end of the day, I find this movie to just be a fun sci-fi fantasy adventure that is not only nostalgic for me, but it brings a full circle character arc that wraps up characters from stories and characters that I truly, truly love and grew up with. And I feel like it leads so perfectly into A New Hope. This original 6-episode saga really, really culminated to this movie for me, and I still thoroughly enjoy it. And I still remember the first time as a very young ZakIsCinema watching Anakin's body burn, and I just feel like that image is so ingrained into my brain, and it scared the shit out of me and scarred me. And still, I love how that scene has such a big emotional impact on me even to this day. So I love Revenge of the Sith. Sue me. I think it's a great movie with flaws I can recognize, but luckily my nostalgia kind of takes over that. So coming in at number 3, we got Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. But coming in at number 2, we got the movie Trick or Treat. And I loved rewatching this movie. It had been a while since I've seen this, but there's so many talks, and they keep talking about making a sequel or something in this universe, like another anthology series. So right around the Halloween time, I just got in the mood to watch this again, and it is such a fun movie, a perfect movie to watch in that Halloween time. And it's one of those movies that I think about when somebody asks me for a comfort horror movie. Comfort horror, like my mind immediately goes to the movie Trick or Treat. I feel like it blends perfectly a horrific, brutal situation and stories, like the story with the son and father killing and burying people in their backyard. But it also has very comforting parts in the movie, like with Sam and his cool slasher lollipop. So those different tones, different styles, different vibes really blend super well into this anthology horror movie. And when I had originally watched this a long time ago, it was one of the first anthology movies, or I guess pieces of media I had ever really experienced. And I always really appreciated, and still to this day when I watched it this year, how well all of these shorts really connect into each other, and how well the movie comes full circle with starting and ending with that same short with the married couple in the front yard. It's like they blended the Final Destination 5, but had it come full circle with one movie instead of a 5-movie saga like the Final Destination one. So I really hope they give us a sequel here, or do something in this universe, another anthology movie. As long as Sam shows up, I am so down, and hope that happens very, very soon here, because at number 2, we got Trick or Treat. And again, no particular order, just some of my favorites I rewatched from this year here. But coming in at number 1, we got the movie The Descent. And I feel like The Descent is such a perfect movie to go into blind, and it's honestly one of my favorite movies to show people that have never seen or heard about this movie before. Like when I rewatched it this past year, I showed it to my dad. Didn't tell him anything, just told him it's a thriller movie in caves, and we watched it and had such a great time with it. It's one of those movies that doesn't have a twist that like recontextualizes its story or characters, but instead the twist introduces something so wild that it fits the tone of the movie still, which is super impressive. It introduces these goblin cave demons that really twist this movie from a claustrophobic, tense cave thriller into an Evil Dead demonic splatterfest horror movie that is fun, intense, and super gnarly. It reminds me similar to Barbarian, with it's one of those movies that has two different styles, almost two different horror subgenres mixed into it, and they flow and connect so well, and that's why it's super perfect to show somebody that has never seen this before, because you start off thinking one thing and then it completely flips and turns into a whole other movie by the halfway point that is just as good, if not better, than the start. I think the movie towards the end, I noticed on this rewatch, does get a little goofy, a little over the top at the end, but I feel like it's so easy to look past and just accept it when it kind of switches subgenres a little bit. And I love how the movie inevitably turns into this final girl, bloody, demonic slasher movie by the third end. And if you've never seen this movie before, please check it out, and definitely watch the European or original cuts ending, because the US ending, I don't know why they switched it or who they convinced to switch it, because it is absolute garbage. It leaves off on a terrible jump scare that just kind of leaves you with a dud and no real solid conclusion. But the original ending, I feel like, leaves off on this ambiguous note, but is still able to wrap things up perfectly fine and leaves you with this bittersweet, somber kind of ending that fits super well. I've never seen the second movie, so let me know if it's worth checking out. I don't really want it to ruin this first movie for me, but if you think I might like it, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on that. But coming in at number 1 for favorite rewatches of 2025, we got the movie The Descent. That's about it. Like I said, I had rewatched about 26 total films that I've seen in previous years in the year 2025. So please let me know what you think of my list down below. And please let me know some of your favorite rewatches that you watched in 2025 if you keep track of that shit. If you don't, just let me know some of your favorite movies that you find yourself always rewatching every single year. But I have another end of the year ranking list video coming soon. I'm having a lot of fun wrapping up my 2025. So yeah, stay tuned to that. That's about it. I appreciate anybody watching my videos, so thank you so much. And yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.